All right, guys, welcome to an episode of Close and Conquer. I got my buddy, and it's going to sound weird when I say this, being that my name's Sean Mike. I got my buddy Sean Mike Kelly with me. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. We had a great episode yesterday.
We had a great episode, and I'm going to tell you what was amazing to me, and I look for this in people all the time. I'm 51 years old. You're 27?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Tomorrow. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy early birthday. So 27 tomorrow. And I want to talk to you about some very specific things today because you've done some amazing things. Mm-hmm. And what it's been hard for me to find is people that have any kind of success. You've had a lot of success. You have a big footprint. I want to hear about what you did with, that's how we found you originally back in the day with the shirts. And everybody's like, you got to get this and check this out. Look at this clothing brand. But you said to me yesterday, man, hey, I'm excited about the episode. I've gotten a lot better. And I'm like, dude, you're growing like a weed. But you said to me, I've gotten a lot better. And that really disarmed me. And how have you, because I think a lot of people forget that I've seen a lot of people implode. They get decent, they get better than decent, they get good, they get the verge of being great, and they're like, look how great I am. Right. And a lot of it goes away. How have you maintained so much humility by growing while you've also grown a massive footprint in the world?
Always being a student of the game, right? So I still to this day listen to podcasts probably 3 to 5 hours a day, which is pretty nuts. And I'm still studying type of guests they're having on, type of questions they're asking, what topics are hot right now. You got to be constantly learning. I think people get comfortable with being a podcast host, but they don't continue to learn. The game changes, man. You used to be able to hop on a Joe Rogan podcast, talk for 3 hours. People's attention spans these days, man, you can't do that anymore unless you have a really good guest. So you just got to constantly be learning.
What's the biggest thing you've learned in the last few months or even few weeks?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I just had Grant Cardone on and learned a lot from him, man. I always thought he was just about money. Same with Andy Elliott when I had him on. But there's a lot more to life, and I'm figuring that out now because my first 7 years of business, just being honest, was all about me, all about making money for myself. Okay. So I've had a mindset shift the past, few months, I guess having on some spiritual guests or something. But now money isn't really number one for me, which is pretty crazy. My whole life it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Straight up.
Number one, more important than family, friends, money.
Money was more important to you than your family.
Yeah. I barely talked to my mom growing up. When I went to college, I called her maybe twice the whole time. I mean, my incentives were not there, man.
Now, was it like that your entire childhood?
I would say so.
If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, I love diving into this stuff. So I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was 10. Okay. So my whole childhood, I realized I had kind of abandonment issues and also pretending to be someone I wasn't. So when I was in school, I was just putting on a show, man. That wasn't who I was. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be popular. And it wasn't me, dude. And I lived a large percentage of my life trying to please other people and trying to be someone I wasn't. And it wasn't until recently where I feel like I'm actually myself. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
But you also learn at a younger age than a lot of people do. You know, I mean, you think about how much you've accomplished, right, in that period of time. So Is it changed? Is money's not the number one motivator for you now?
It's still super important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're in business. As a podcaster, I gotta, have good books. It's a pretty expensive thing to do. But no, there's more. I get a lot of purpose out of the podcast. I feel like I'm really waking some people up in certain categories, and it feels really good.
So I had Evan Carmichael on recently. Actually, I was in Puerto Rico traveling, and we did a virtual tour. You know Evan Carmichael?
Yeah.
And I had him on I tried to have him on. Did I tell you the story at all?
No.
I tried to have him on my podcast. I just started messing around like 11 months ago. And I've learned a lot by watching people like you. And I'm a student to anybody that's good. Mm-hmm. You can be 21. You can be 102. Don't matter to me. And Evan, about 15 minutes before we started, said, let me tell you everything you're doing wrong. And I just started. First he said, do you want some advice? To which I said yes. And then he went through all the things I was doing wrong.
Wow.
And then I was like, and the guy that introduced me to him said, hey, I'm sorry about today. I said, that was the greatest 15 minutes I could have ever gotten. Had him on recently, made some changes. I got a long way to go. Made some changes. And then he read me his subs for 10 years because he's got millions now. Yeah. And he was like 180. So he started walking me through that. How long have you been in the podcast game, if you will?
Yeah, it's been a year and a month. Started in January last year.
So 13 months.
Yeah.
And how many people, how many subscribers you got on YouTube? How many? What's your following look like? So these guys understand how big it is.
Well, the first episode released in March, so it's actually 11 months. But 689 on YouTube, Instagram 11 million, TikTok 330K.
Okay, you know how crazy that is, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. And
no, but I mean, think about the amount of people in the world,
let
alone in America, and how many of them have seen your face, heard your voice, and heard you do your thing.
No, it's crazy. Like even lately just going in public almost anywhere now. I was in Atlanta, people are recognizing me. It's awesome to see, but you can't get caught up in that at the same time. So yeah, it's a game you got to play.
So when you say you're trying to bring certain issues to light or point a light on or lighten people, what is one real important one to you nowadays? Where you're like, hey, I really want to hammer on this and wake people up.
Yeah, there's two that come to mind. First one's public education system. I mean, what a waste of time. Holy crap. So that's a big one that I try to cover on every episode. If it's an older gentleman, I'll ask if they're sending their kids to public school. What are their thoughts on that? Second one is overcoming traumas, man, because we all got our own demons. Growing up in a middle-class family, mine were probably different than yours. Mine were more on the mental side, but everyone's got some deep wounds they got to heal.
So public school, my daughter went through public school. My son, after his freshman year, went to private school. Obviously, for me as a parent, it was night and day.
Right.
I never even knew that was an option. Matter of fact, and I want you to talk about your opinion and your view on it, because it's worth explaining to people. But my son, when he was like in 8th grade, said, hey, because he's a really good athlete, I might want to go to this school. And I couldn't afford it. So my answer was, because I couldn't afford it, instead of being an adult and a man about it, I said, you don't need to do that. Like, why would you want to do that?
Right.
Like, why would you ever want to? And I'll never forget how it made me feel as a parent. And then I think I actually worked my ass off when I knew he wanted to go. And then, I mean, it was like $60,000 a year. I'll pay $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
But for people that, like, and you don't have any kids.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a passion of yours. Give us your take on that when you say what a waste of money. And I understand it generally, but what do you mean by all of it? And get some specifics for us.
Yeah, I think it gets tougher when sports are in the equation. I wasn't talking about that specifically, more on the academic side. But these days, there's all sorts of leagues popping up. I don't know about football and stuff, but basketball, there's leagues where you don't have to go to like a private school. So there's different opportunities. Maybe you could play overseas and stuff. But just with me, man, what a waste of time. I mean, you learn some social skills, which is good. The actual topics themselves, I don't use any of that. And the pace of learning, how they make everyone learn at the same pace, I don't agree with. I think it should be more personalized. It would be hard to do that at scale. I mean, my school had 3,000 kids. So there was so many people, but
How many in your class?
800.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't even know everyone in my grade.
How many in your individual classes when you sat in the classroom?
Individual, probably 25 to 30. But even that, you're not getting a one-on-one experience.
Correct.
You know what I mean? No one really cares about you. The teachers are just following their script, and you're just there.
And from a communication standpoint, my son is head and shoulders above because well, he went there to play ball.
Right.
The academics he got were life-changing.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
In private school?
Absolutely.
So they teach a different curriculum?
Yeah, it was completely different.
Nice.
He came out of there here compared, and it was just like he grew up real fast, and the socialization too. When you talk about public school, dude, he met a lot of people who were going places, and met some of his best friends there.
Nice.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And my daughter's school had the same thing, thousands of people.
Right.
So when you traumas, because that's real important. First of all, everybody has. I had a guest on recently. He said, "Well, you didn't go through what everybody else went through." I said, "Well, you told me you lost your dad at 10."
Yeah.
He's like, "I know, but a great family." I said, "I know, but it's a lot harder losing your dad at 10 when you have a great family than if your dad was estranged."
Right.
For you, trauma specifically, what did you do to overcome those or battle those? And what's your advice to people? Because everybody's got them. Everybody.
Yeah.
And what scares me about some people act like they don't, and they implode one day. What's your best advice or your take on helping some of the folks overcome those traumas and reach whatever success they want or whatever that means for them?
Yeah, so I had a couple. My dad was bipolar and also had autism, so like he would be very direct. If I said the wrong thing, he'd yell at me. Never physical, luckily, even though he got physically abused. But being up, as a kid, having a lot of energy, I had to learn how to contain it. So I was actually a huge introvert, and it took me a while to get out of it. At one point, I had agoraphobia.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't even leave my house.
When you were how old?
I was 21. I know your most viewed video on YouTube is about lawsuits, so it was my first time getting served.
Really?
And I thought the world was ending. No one taught me how to deal
Really?
with this, and probably for a month straight, I couldn't leave my bedroom.
The lawsuit crippled you and kept you in your room.
Yeah, because at that point, I was running Jersey Champs, and that lawsuit, if it went to court, I would have lost everything and would have been bankrupt. It would have been terrible.
What was the law, if you don't mind? What was the lawsuit for? What was
Yeah,
this?
so it's this weird law. It's called telephone TCPA.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I got hit with that. Had no idea you weren't allowed to text in a certain way, and it's $500 for every text you sent.
Was it class action?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So $500 for every text you sent. I did the math. It would have been like, I think $10 million or something at the time, and I was 21. I would have been bankrupt.
So you couldn't leave your house.
Couldn't leave the house.
Did you talk to anybody?
Tried therapy, didn't work.
When individual therapy in person.
Yeah, I got prescribed Xanax. That's a whole nother story. That was awful. Had a seizure.
You had a seizure after you took Xanax.
Yeah, so I almost died at 21. So I was on Xanax for a month straight. You know, that whole month flew by. I don't even remember anything from it because you just black out, and then you're supposed to taper off it. You're not supposed to just stop cold turkey, right? So I cut cold turkey. I'm super high with my friend. We're smoking weed. I used to smoke a lot and had a seizure, dude, at 21.
He's there.
Yeah.
You're there hanging out, smoking weed, and you had a full seizure.
Yeah, ambulance came, saved my life, and it was just
So if you're there by yourself, you'd have been dead.
Probably.
If you didn't call nobody called 911.
He was freaking out because we're both super high, right? And I'm telling him to call an ambulance. Something's wrong. I could barely talk. I felt like I was a mute. And I just remember, like, wow, is this it? At 21 years old.
Damn.
Pretty nuts, right?
How'd you snap out of it, or how'd you get out of it?
They saved me, and then I just remember, like, wow, if I died right there, no one would have gave a shit. Like, I did nothing at that point. So I went completely sober. I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke weed a lot daily, and I cut all that out and just focused on business.
You cut that out. You're like, I'm done. Cold turkey.
Cold turkey.
Done.
Yeah.
No therapy, no nothing, no classes, no group.
I did 4 sessions of therapy. It didn't work for me. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
I feel like my trauma was more deep than just a therapy session. I don't think you could talk it out.
So what do you do to deal with it now?
I did some weird stuff. I hired a spiritual coach. This is a whole nother realm, but I believe in like past lives.
Yeah.
So there was some past life trauma and some deep generational trauma that I had to clear up.
In your past lives.
Yeah.
Explain. 'Cause I don't. Explain that to me.
Yeah, it's interesting, man.
Because that's really cool.
And this sounds crazy, right? And I never believed in any of this stuff until I had on some podcast guests. But there's a theory out there that we've all had hundreds of past lives, and we just keep being reborn. And sometimes there's some trauma carried over
From your past life.
Yeah.
Not this life.
Well, this life too, but
Correct, but there's stuff you carry you don't even know you carry from
yeah.
another life.
So in one of them, this one stood out to me. I was a really stressed out businessman. I died of a heart attack. I would take care of my family, and I was super stressed. And in this life, I used to get heart palpitations like all the time, like at least once a week, and I would have weird chest pain. And then she cleared it, and I haven't had it since.
When did you clear it?
She's just a super psychic, spiritual person. Her name's Jasenia. Yeah, she came on my show. It's interesting, man. Wow. I would give it a try. I've done some hypnotherapy. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Yeah, so Dom the hypnotist put me under for 2 sessions, and yeah, it's interesting stuff. I'm always willing to try things, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very open, and being a podcast host, you kind of have to be, because if you're closed off, it's kind of disrespectful to guests sometimes.
So my mother is, when I was 9, she took my bike away. Mm-hmm. And I said, why? And she said, because I had a dream that you hit by a truck. And she gave me the location. I didn't drive my bike for 4 weeks.
Wow.
And then I snuck my bike out, rode it, and literally got hit by a truck when I was 9. Dislocated my arms, my heart stopped, and went to the hospital. Was the exact same spot. But I thought, I'm 9, that's weird. My mom just, then about a year later, she said, your Uncle Mike can't go to Hawaii. He's going to drown.
Oh. And
so, dude, like this kept happening. And so I never believed, because I'm being honest with you, I was always like, dude, I don't know, like, who's telling her? Like,
Yeah.
I'm spiritual. I have a faith. I don't apologize for it. I have a massive concern about being judged. I believe what I believe. I think it frees me from being judged. I'm not afraid of being judged by people. But she would have these dreams. She'd be like, and she'll call me. She called me a year ago. She said, I had a dream you're in Minnesota, and you got jumped. You're going to ATM at night. And I said, that's weird. I'm going to Minnesota in 8 days. Whoa. And I never talked to my mom about my schedule. Like, I don't call her up and go. And she's like, I'm just telling you. So we go out to eat in Minnesota. My buddy's like, I need to get some money. And I'm like, okay. And it's kind of cold. And then we're looking for. And I mean, I don't know anything was going to happen, but it's just weird. So I definitely changed my view on what I think some people have a gift.
Your mom is one of those people, man.
100%.
There's only so many times where it's a coincidence.
No, there's no doubt. Statistically, there's no way. Yeah. I mean, the biggest actuarial science in the world that doesn't believe in it, the numbers just, they don't lie.
Yeah.
It can't happen. So is that something you still deal with on a daily? Like, is it pretty...
Yeah, I mean, I never felt like I fit in growing up, and I thought I was just different from everyone. I didn't know why, and I tried so hard to fit in, you know what I mean? Tried so hard to be popular, and it was just a waste of time. I had no real friends. Everyone was
growing up.
Yeah, everyone was just using me. I would black out.
What were they using you for?
I would have parties at my house. Yeah, they just used me for my house. They fucked up my whole house. I would just black out, try to be cool. It was just a dark time looking back, trying to fit in. Was that similar to you in high school?
I had a lot of anger from my trauma. I saw a lot of violence, and we talked yesterday. I felt really inadequate as a kid, that I couldn't fix that growing up. I was put in a lot of violent situations, so my only answer with anything, I felt inferior intellectually. Like if you and I were in high school together, I'd be like, I'm not as smart as, I don't want to talk to him. And I would immediately think you were judging me, even though you probably weren't.
Right.
And then the only way I knew how to respond to it was physical. But the one thing I will say about growing up is I had this desire to be physical, but only with people that were bullying. That's how I felt like I was being treated as a kid by the people around me. So I would like, if you were in school and somebody was using you, I'd want to fight them.
Wow. So you would stand up for kids getting
100%.
bullied?
Everybody.
Wow.
That's all I ever did. My daughter's like, we have anti-bullying. I said, so did I. You bully him, I'll knock you the fuck out.
Yeah.
You can spit your teeth out like bloody fucking chiclets.
And back then you could fight. Now you
100%. You're like, literally, I remember this kid, Max, was grabbing people one day. I beat the shit out of him. My teacher was like, why'd you do that? I'm like, he was picking on his kid's freshman. I don't even know who he is. And he was like, I suggest you stop picking on people. Like,
Yeah.
we policed it. I'm going to
cool.
get in trouble. And it was like, but he started. That kid's smaller than him. And I always told my son, I've lived by this. You don't fight anybody that's smaller, younger, less apt than you.
Yeah.
Which means I've gotten knocked around sometimes because the dudes are bigger and more capable than me. But there was a lot of trauma.
Sometimes I wish they brought a little of that back, maybe not
Yeah.
all of it, but now with the cyberbullying, it's different, man. You can't even fight back.
What is your take? Because I was watching, was it Zuckerberg and he apologized? Was that real?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
What's your take? I mean, why is so much? You know more about this than I do.
Yeah.
Because you understand the algorithms, the deal. You deep dive into this, and that's the thing I've learned. I run this company over here, do this other thing, and it's like this is a full-time gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm trying to get, but like it's a full-time gig.
80 hours a week for me.
Yeah, I believe you, and I'm like, but why is so much of that, in my opinion, or am I wrong? Why is it not more censored? I mean, you certainly can build anything you could build to stop once you see that happening. That's not freedom of speech. Why is that not policed more? Because kids kill themselves. They die.
Yeah, they die.
They get tormented into killing themselves.
On my Instagram feed, like on the Explore tab, I see a death every day on there. It's so crazy. Like they show people getting hit by trains. They show shootings. It's like they're kind of desensitizing you almost, it feels like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like not normal to be able to witness deaths, and like they show animals dying. It's interesting, man. I don't know what their agenda is.
And then I'm reading that they're immune from, talking about litigation, being held accountable for any of that. On some level, that's what they were arguing about. Like, why do you have this free pass, Mr. Zuckerberg, or any of these other guys? Like, why do you have that pass? Why don't they just censor more of it? What is the agenda? I mean, the agenda can't be to watch kids hurt themselves.
Yeah, I don't know. I really feel like they're just trying to break us psychologically sometimes and just desensitize us to everything and normalize certain things. Now they're saying they're going to normalize pedophilia in a few years, and we'll see if that works.
They're going to what?
Yeah, that's what people are
They're
saying.
going to normalize it.
They're going to normalize it, yeah.
So I worked the Department of Children and Families for 14 years. And I got I was young, I was excited, I was angry, my boss was cool, so I got all the shittiest cases. So my cases came with a red piece of paper on it, which meant like it was a safety hazard. And it was just a bunch of scumbags. And this guy, which they were, like there were parents taking care of their kids, and there were parents that had sex with their kids, had sex with other kids, beat these kids to a bloody pulp. They were just complete scumbags. And I had this guy that had sex with 4 of his own children.
Jeez.
Straight out, okay? And I'll never forget that I would supervise his visit. He still got visits.
Wow.
And you're like, dude, what world do I live in, right? So I'd supervise his visit, and I would have to walk like right behind him. And I hated him, of course. I was 22 years old. And like literally once a month, he'd be like, do you have to walk so close? And I'd be like, fuck you. Do you have to have sex with kids? Fuck you. Like, what are you going to do? Because I was still, in my mind, still who I was at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I was going to stand up for them. One day he brought a baby with him that wasn't his. And I remember I called my boss and I said, he had a baby. Like, he can't have a kid with him. And he did it just to show me, you know? And I remember I called my boss and he's like, well, he didn't do anything to that kid that we know of. I said, well, the kid's 3 months old. How the fuck do we know what he did or didn't do? And it's a freaky thing because what you're saying, we had people back then that almost in court wanted to not normalize it, but we'd be like, well, because years ago, dude, if you said something happened to you, like I'm older, that was a different program. Like domestic violence, dude, we went to places all the time and people didn't get arrested. You could be with your wife. She could be bleeding on the couch, 2 black eyes, a broken nose. I go, what happened? She goes, nothing. We'd leave.
Wow.
Because now they put all those laws in place so women got killed. I'm sure men too, but I mean, I'm talking about men beating women.
Right.
Do you really think, I mean, you're a smart guy. You pay attention. Do you really think that there's a chance that they're going to normalize?
There's probably,
pedophilia?
I don't know how big of a group, but there's probably a group trying. I mean, think about it. They normalize the gay stuff, right, which is whatever. Now they normalize the trans stuff. I mean, it just progressively keeps getting crazier and crazier.
But we don't draw a line at children.
I do, obviously.
No,
you
know
do.
you do,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, like,
there's a group of elites, man. I mean, you've seen all the conspiracy theories. I mean, I don't like to dive down those rabbit holes because then it gets censored, but it's pretty interesting.
touche. Well, I can tell you this. For me, the one thing I know, somebody asked me, why are you so passionate about me? I get it, Sean. I say because I've not found a therapy that's ever worked, because these are adults that want to exert power and control over children. You're not gonna fix that's what they want to do. Yeah. That's who they are. So you're like, they're going to do this. No, that'd be like you saying, I go, you're attracted to women. I go, stop being attracted to women. You're like, okay. Now, obviously, but like at the end of the day, I've never seen it. I did it for 14, 15 years and never saw it. That's actually why I left the state, because I had a kid who shouldn't be placed in care, and he got placed in care and got raped in care. Damn. And I was like, dude, I'm out of here.
It's terrible.
Like, it's awful. So, dude, you have an unbelievable vulnerability.
Yeah,
and
I'm open, man.
I know you are, and you have a deep desire to help other people. Talk to us about, so when you had the TCPA thing, what's the name of the company?
It was Jersey Champs at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it now?
It's still Jersey Champs,
okay.
But we settled. I didn't even know what a settlement was. They don't teach you this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you're that young and you get sued, you think...
Did at least my one video help you? Well, it was too late now.
It did. It was too late, but it was good. Looking back, it was good to see that perspective. I mean, I wish they taught more of that in school, to be honest, because... You know, I had no guidance, no father figure. My parents got divorced at 10, and you know, it was just I felt like I was
Are you close to your parents now?
Yeah, my dad passed, but yeah, I'm super close to my mom. Yeah,
really.
I've accepted it. It was pretty crazy, and he ended up in a psych ward, and they just put him on all these meds. It was terrible. I don't like the psych ward system. I know a few people that have ended up in them, and never a pleasant experience.
Damn, you have siblings?
2 stepbrothers.
From your mom?
From my dad.
Your dad was somebody else that had 2 kids?
Yeah.
You taught them at all?
No, I don't talk to one of them at all. He got kicked out of the house, and haven't talked to him in 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a video game addict. And then the other one I talk to occasionally. I left him all the money and everything. I wanted him to just be set.
Really?
So when my dad passed, gave it all to him.
So what is what's, I know the pod is huge. What you're doing is huge. Getting your message out is huge. Getting around what is, in a year from now, if we're sitting here, what is one thing on your agenda that you want to make sure you accomplish?
That's the cool thing about podcasts. There's always a next level up, right? Yeah. So even though I'm big in certain spaces, I'm a nobody. So like, I mean, Rogan's the pinnacle, I'd say, and Shannon Sharp getting 10 million views an episode right now.
It's obnoxious.
There's more to do, man. There's a lot more to do, a lot more people to have on, a lot more inspiring messages to share. Yeah, we're number 1 in marketing, but I want to hit number 1 in business this year, and then next year go for all-time number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I'm learning about this game. I've been running businesses since I was 18. I've been able to exit them successfully, do well. You have you're very sharp, obviously, but you have a desire to help other people grow, and I appreciate you connecting with me and allowing me to connect with you, because it's been big for me.
Absolutely, man.
And
likewise.
It means a lot, and I watch what you do. We watch it. I tell my staff all the time. You know, and I always tell them, they'll say, man, like, look what he does over here. And I'm like, he works more. He puts more effort in. He's a student of his craft. That's what I said earlier. Like, I don't know how many hours you were doing whatever you were doing, but I'm like, this ain't by accident.
No.
And then also the humility that comes with it, because there's so many people out there in their 20s that are looking to take this thing to the next level. And I think when you meet very successful people, for me, the experience was they're not any smarter. Like, I met a lot of people that made a lot of money, and I'm like, if he's a billionaire, and that wasn't what drove me, and it just never was. I was making it as a social worker. I'm competitive. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't got no problem with Grant or Andy, but I'm like, I'm good at what I do business wise. I've exited 3 companies successfully. I can help you, but like, I want to compete.
Yeah.
You know, I want to. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
And it's super inspiring, because I saw you on another show. You didn't make real money until like 36, right?
And dude, I didn't make. That's the thing with everybody nowadays. Like, I'm 23. I'm like, you're 20. Like, and dude, go hit it. You know, create something, invent something. I'm all about it. But I started the insurance business at 36. Yeah. I didn't make my first $1 million a year until I was in my early 40s.
Damn.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, I had exited some companies, and yeah, cumulatively sold them for over hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's been awesome.
So it caught up.
It caught up.
Yeah.
But dude, it was years. I started my grind at 18.
Wow.
I bought my first piece of property at 18. No litigation experience. Found a realtor who was like, I had $40,000 I had saved up from work and doing a bunch of other shit. Bought a piece of property, and then when I applied for the subdivision, I go from 1 lot to 3, I got fucking sued.
Wow.
18.
At 18?
Had no, I don't have a mom to call, don't have a dad to call. And I'll never forget, I had an old baseball coach who was a psycho, John Ellis. He passed away recently. And I'd been with him for a summer in baseball. And I just listened to him talk. And he basically said to me, there's 2 rules in business that allow you to be very successful. And he was a multimillionaire in the 80s after his 10 or I don't know how long, many years played in the big leagues, but he had a very good career. And he said, when you find yourself thinking stop, it's not too complicated. And don't ever worship. And he'd use different languages I can't use. Everybody would freak out. But he basically was like, don't ever, ever, ever worship another man. Like he's just another man. There's no doubt that you can achieve what he's achieving. So I actually went back to the realtor that sold it to me and said, this is what's going on. She said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to fight. Hired an engineer. The government shut him down, locked the doors. He wasn't paying his taxes, which I didn't know. So he had all my information. Spent 10 grand on that I didn't have. And I ended up selling it back to the realtor. And I said, why are you buying it back from me? She said, because you're going to be very successful in the real estate industry. And I want to connect with you. I was 18. She was 50. I said, why do you think that? She was, because you have tenacity and you're not afraid. And those are 2 hard things to find. A year later, I got my insurance license. She's the first person I called. We did a bunch of business together for years. And, you know, there's so many entrepreneurs out there. And that's how most of the people on. I mean, honestly, the ones that they're talking about business, close and conquer is close and conquering yourself, close and conquering your business, getting up and figuring out what you got to do. But your journey, like you have such a story that also is true.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about some of the stuff I'm like, I love everybody, and I'm not going to go like Tom, but they lie. They just lie. They make, and you're like, dude, I've been with people like, dude, I grew up with him. None of that's true. Like, and that's like, my story's true. Your story's true. Yeah. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of trauma. We're not making it into something that's not. I'm not glorifying it by any stretch of imagination.
The truth always comes out, man, for real.
Yes.
You can't run away from it.
Dude, I'm sure you already all do, and when I say this about all the guests, I mean it, 'cause I love everybody from coming on. I appreciate it. I want to support everybody. But I'm telling you, when you find humble people, when you find people that are vulnerable, dude, it'll change your life. I've watched your stuff a lot. It changes my life. I watch what you do here. I'm a student of it. And I'm glad to call you a peer and a friend, man.
Same.
And I appreciate you jumping on Close and Conquer. It means the world to me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, man.
Of course, man. Guys, if you like this, please, hey, share it, like, subscribe. You can find Sean Mike Kelly everywhere in the world. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. He's everywhere. Great guy. Thanks for your support as always. We'll drop like another video if you like this one. I think you'll love that one. And thanks always for your support. It means the world to me, man. You have no idea. Appreciate y'all.